Hello everybody, Prepper Steve here, and today I want to talk a little bit about basic self-defense for preppers and for anybody for that matter. Before I talk about self-defense, I'll give you a little bit of background so you know where I'm coming from on this. Now, I have had a lot of experience defending myself in a lot of different situations. I've had a lot of training on the subject of self-defense, both private and government training. And when I was younger, I did compete in martial arts and things like that. And so I've got a good background in self-defense, basic self-defense. So that's where my opinions and my views come from. And when you talk about self-defense, the topic scares a lot of people. There are a lot of folks out there that have never had to defend themselves, have never been in a physical fight or altercation, and they don't really know what to do or what to expect if that happens, and that's a scary thought for a lot of people that haven't had any experience. But what you do need to understand is you have the God-given right as well as the responsibility to defend yourself and your family. So if you're the head of the family, it's your responsibility to defend that family. So you need to be at least a little bit prepared to do that, especially if we get into a situation like Laurel where the crap really hits the fan and things are going nuts out there. You really want to know how to defend yourself effectively. And with that in mind, the question that comes up with a lot of people that I deal with is, what's the best training? What's the best martial art form? What's the best way to defend yourself? And I guess the simple answer to that is any training at all is better than no training. So any training you can get is going to prepare you more than not doing anything at all. Whether that be taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, karate, Krav Maga, any of that stuff. Any training is better than no training at all. And what you need to understand is most of the martial arts that are out there are sports, and they're fun, and they do teach you a lot about self-defense, and you learn a lot of good ways to defend yourself in any of those forms. But bottom line is mostly they're a sport. You're competing for belts and trophies, and that's what they're about, and that's okay. But what you need to understand is if you're in a situation where you're actually having to defend yourself or your family from a hostile threat, there are no trophies, there are no belts, there's no rules. So you need to understand that. And that's what a lot of these folks that are really deep into these martial arts, they kind of miss that point a little bit. But again, if you've been in, let's say taekwondo for many years and you're a black belt and you're really, really good at it, yeah, you can probably defend yourself a lot better than the average guy on the street. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm not saying anything negative about any of the martial arts, because again, any training is better than no training. So with that in mind, if somebody is asking me about martial arts, now I have a basic program that I teach to folks that's again, it's just basic, simple, direct program. It's not about belts or anything like that. It's just a basic defend yourself program that works pretty well for just the average folks. But if you do want to get some serious training and you're concerned, which martial art to use or what to do, how to go about getting your training, whatever, I do recommend Krav Maga. It's a very good self-defense program, and it's not about belts and it's not about trophies. It's purely about defending yourself using the least amount of energy possible and being as effective as possible, and I highly recommend that. With that being said, again, I'm not taking anything away from any of the other martial arts forms. I mean, they're all good in their own way. But let's boil down to the basics of, you're in a situation where you need to defend yourself or your family, whatever that situation is. The first thing that I teach and that I highly recommend, the first thing that you do is escape. Get out of there without fighting, because anytime you enter into a physical altercation with another human being, you're opening yourself up to the risk of injury. And you need to understand, if you are in a situation, you know, where the crap has hit the fan and we're in survival mode and we're you know, trying to survive on our own out here without a lot of help from government, the last thing you want to do is get injured. You know, a staph infection could kill in that environment, so you don't want to get injured. So the very first thing you want to do is escape. That's where your mind needs to go first. How do I get out of here? How do I get me and my family out of here without having to deal with this physical altercation? That's rule number one. Get out. Avoid it. Get away from it. And if you cannot do that, if you're in a situation where there's no escape and you are forced to defend yourself using physical violence, the next rule that I have is do it quickly. Do it as fast as you possibly can, using the least amount of energy that you can possibly use. And that's just basic common sense. If you do have to defend yourself, do it quick, be effective, and get out of there. You know, for basic hand-to-hand combat, I got 3 simple rules that I teach, and it sounds funny, but it's very effective. But rule number one, or I guess the first part is, if an assailant can't see you, he's no longer a threat to you. If an assailant can't breathe, he's no longer a threat to you. And if an assailant can't walk, he's no longer a threat to you. So my advice is, accomplish those 3 things as fast as you possibly can and get out of there. And there are ways to do that, and you know, you don't have to go through a lot of training to learn how to do that kind of thing. It's a bit simple, basic techniques is all I teach, you know, on that subject. But you can be very effective using some simple, basic techniques. Now, I've got some videos here I'm going to show you in just a minute about actual situations where people are actually defending themselves. And it's funny because most of these situations could have been solved with step number 1, escape. They never tried it. They went straight to fight, which, you know, that's okay. I guess that's on them. But if you do have to go to a fight, if you do have to defend yourself or your family, then another rule that I have, and this is going to make a lot of people angry, I can see it already, but rule that I have is, do not go to the ground, stay on your feet. Now, a lot of folks will say, oh no, if you know how to fight on the ground, you're okay, you know, jiu-jitsu, things like that. Yeah, going to the ground's no problem. You can go to the ground and defend yourself real effectively. And that's true. You know, in a one-on-one situation, you can go to the ground and defend yourself effectively if you know a few basic techniques. But the reason that I say do not go to the ground, stay on your feet at all cost, is for these simple reasons. Number 1, when you go to the ground, you have just limited your mobility. It's really hard to cover a lot of distance quickly if you're laying on the ground rolling around in the gravel with somebody else. So you've limited your mobility hugely, and that's not good. Another reason that I recommend do not go to the ground is because when you do go to the ground and you're rolling around in the gravel in a fight, you're expending a lot of energy. Trust me, you use up a lot of energy rolling around on the ground fighting. You really do. So you want to avoid that. And the third, and I guess the most important to me, reason to not go to the ground, to stay on your feet at all costs, is because when you're on the ground and you've limited your mobility, you've just made yourself a target for everybody else that wants to get in on the action. And that's one thing you'll see in some of these videos I'm going to show you in a minute, and it's been my experience that anytime you have to defend yourself, don't ever assume it's a one-on-one situation, because it never is. There's always somebody else to get in on the action. Maybe the guy you're defending yourself against, maybe it's his friends, his family, whatever, but there's always other people that want to get in on the action. And when you're laying down on the ground wrapped up with this guy, you've just made yourself a real easy target for everybody else to jump in and join in. So that's why I say, stay on your feet. Don't ever go to the ground. And that's just some basics about self-defense. And that's what I'm targeting here. I'm not targeting people that have had years of training and years of experience defending themselves, because obviously you already know how to defend yourself. And again, like if you've been in karate or taekwondo or jiu-jitsu or any of that stuff for years, and you've had a lot of training in it and you're really good at it, yeah, you can defend yourself a lot better than the average guy off the street. So I'm not talking to you there. I'm talking to folks that don't have that experience and are trying to figure out what the best way is for them to defend themselves. And I believe if you'll think about it along those lines, you'll probably agree with me if you've actually been in situations where you've had to defend yourself. So with that being said, I do have a few videos here that I want to show you. I apologize, some of the quality is not great, and on one of them there is some strong language, so if that offends you, you might not want to see that part. But other than that, there are some good examples of what happens when you have to defend yourself. So with that being said, let me go ahead and roll these videos real quick and let you get a look at them. This right here is a good example of what it looks like when you actually have to defend yourself. Now, just so you understand what's happening here, this guy and this girl here, they're in this park, apparently tourists, stopping there taking a selfie, taking a picture of themselves, and they're just having a good time, enjoying themselves. And these two guys walk up behind them, and this guy yanks on the girl's hair for no reason. And these guys don't know each other. These guys are just looking for some trouble. So watch what happens here. Okay, now so far he's doing the right thing. He is looking after his girl, and he's just trying to get these guys to leave him alone. But these guys aren't going to have that, so keep watching.